Good to have you with us on this Thursday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. I like to point out things from time to time that the other media doesn't do. Watching the debate the other night, I've noticed that I like to watch the moderators. I like to listen to the questions. And you'll notice that CNN has partnered with the Salem Radio Network to do these debates. And one of the moderators is a right-wing hack. He thinks he's a journalist. He isn't. And that's Hugh Hewitt. And who is the Salem Radio Network? Well, the Salem Radio Network is just 24/7 filled with right-wing garbage. They hate liberals. They have beaten up Obama unmercifully. And, of course, they hate Hillary Clinton. So CNN, I don't know why they feel like they have to partner with a right-wing network. They never partnered with Air America on anything. And so now it's CNN and the Salem Radio Networks are bringing you these debates on CNN. And, oh, by the way, one of our moderators asking the questions tonight is Hugh Hewitt. Jeff Zucker, who's your liberal counterpart to this? Who's your liberal hack up there asking the questions? Why is it that nobody from our side gets an opportunity to do something like that? I don't need the job and I don't want it. There's other things in the works, of course. But the point here is that Bernie Sanders for a long time has complained about the corporate media. And CNN is supposed to be this middle of the road, this journalistic engine in American news. Really? What are you partnering with the Salem Radio Network for? And what the hell is Hugh Hewitt doing clapping like that when Donald Trump says that he's not going to run as an independent? Here's the exchange.
Are you ready to reassure Republicans tonight that you will run as a Republican and abide by the decision of the Republicans?
I really am. I'll be honest. I really am. I mean, people have been putting me the question. I really am.
I can applaud. Dr. Carson.
I would love to have the opportunity to be on CNN, I guess, so I could clap when Bernie Sanders rips him a new one for not giving fair coverage and the corporate media just selling out to Trump and to Hillary. I mean, wouldn't that be entertaining? You know, don't give me this garbage that the media is fair, even CNN. There is a right-wing bent in the corporate media all across the board. And you're not going to see any liberals asking any questions or being propped up the way Hugh Hewitt is being propped up. Now, as far as Trump is concerned, the entertainment continues. Liberals, we haven't had this much entertainment in a long time. And the thing that we love about this right now, this dust-up between Donald Trump and Jeb Bush, is that liberals can't stand the Bushes. You know, I don't think we're ever going to forget what George W. did to the country. And when we look at his brother, we think of his brother. I mean, that's the way it is. And he just can't get out from the shadow because he's basically saying the same kind of garbage. International intervention, more war, more this, more that. And he can't believe that Trump is way out in front. So Trump giving us the entertainment is just sticking it to Bush, saying, you know, I don't need you. And liberals are loving this kind of conversation. Here it is.
Last night, I had Jeb come at me. You know, low energy. No, I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I hear this, you know, Donald Trump, dude, you know, it's just like... He said it just the way his pollster told him to say it. Jeb Bush, to this point, has spent over $40 million for ads. He's at two. Donald Trump, till this point, has spent $211,000. I don't even know why I spent it. I have endorsements from incredible people, the people that I want. You know, I don't care if a guy like Jeb Bush never endorses me. It wouldn't bother me at all. I think it's a negative if you want.
It just doesn't end, does it? Ed Schultz News and Commentary continues. When we come back, Colonel Jack Jacobs. There was some pretty astounding rhetoric that was thrown out the other night at the debate. We'll review it. What is the good military option, and how easy is it to set up a no-fly zone? This seems to be the big bullet point for the Republicans right now. That's next on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Stay with us. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegoted.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you this production. So on the stage the other night, the big message was that we have to elect Republicans or we're not going to be safe. The montage sounded like this.
An American citizen, and you decide to join up with ISIS, we're not going to read you your Miranda rights. You're going to be treated as an enemy combatant.
We need a toughness. We need strength. We're not respected as a nation anymore.
We have to go massively like we did in the first Gulf War, where we destroyed Saddam's ability to take Kuwait. We need to have a coalition that will stand for nothing less than the total destruction of ISIS.
America is at war. Our enemy is not violent extremism. It is not some unnamed malevolent force. It is radical Islamic terrorism. ISIS and radical Islamic terrorism will face no more determined foe than I will be. We will utterly destroy them by targeting the bad guys.
Yes, we would shoot down the planes of Russian pilots if, in fact, they were stupid enough to think that this president was the same feckless weakling that the president we have in the Oval Office is right now.
Oh, it's raw meat. They can't get enough of it. So what we heard was Kurdish forces, got to get them involved, got to have a no-fly zone, got to shoot down Russian planes if they get out of line, got to go after the family members of the terrorists, and, oh, by the way, shut down the internet. Is any of this possible? Let's take it from a military standpoint. What do you have to do to institute a no-fly zone? No one better to talk about than Colonel Jack Jacobs, retired MSNBC military analyst. Colonel, good to have you with us.
Good morning, Ed.
Tell our listeners and viewers about a no-fly zone. How is that instituted? Does the United States just say, you know what, we're going to not let anybody fly in this area, and here's the map, and this is the way it is? It would seem to me that there has to be a lot of coalition, a lot of partners, and a lot of people signing off on a no-fly zone. Take us down that road.
Well, especially in that area, because there are so many actors wandering around, Russians, Iran, both on the ground and in the air. It's not just a question of clearing out a no-fly zone. It's also a question of making sure that the other guys don't launch bombs, precision-guided munitions from some great distance away outside the no-fly zone onto you or your allies. So what this is what's required here is a great deal of coordination with the other actors. Quite frankly, I think that the administration right now is working on that through John Kerry. There's one reason why John Kerry is talking to Putin. I and other people smell a deal in the making right now, and it may include a no-fly zone, but not without the concurrence of the Russians. There's just too much danger if you go ahead and institute a no-fly zone by yourself without coordination. Next thing you know, you're shooting at each other. You're not shooting at ISIS or any other bad guys. You're shooting at the Russians, and the Russians are shooting at you, and that's something to be avoided here.
You know, this is the insight that Americans need to consume. To have a flippant comment come out during a debate, well, we don't have a no-fly zone. We got to have a no-fly zone. I mean, they think it can be done in 10 minutes. It takes months of diplomacy and strategy to make sure that everybody's on the same page and understands what's going on, or it can because a no-fly zone basically is puts you on the doorstep to a possible confrontation, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and there's something else here, too. The ultimate question is, what are you trying to achieve? I've said it many times before. It was Lewis Carroll who said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. what is it we're trying to achieve that a no-fly zone will help you get there? And you have to ask yourself the question, you don't want who to fly there? Mm-hmm. Well, certainly not ISIS. They don't have a lot of airplanes. No, what you're trying to do is coordinate activities with the other major actors in the region, particularly Russia and Syria, who have both folks in the air and on the ground. That's what this is all about. That's what it should be all about, coordination with allies and potential allies. And by the way, make no mistake about it, I think I'd be astonished if we don't make some kind of arrangement with Russia. People argue all the time about dealing with Putin and what a creep he is and so on, and all that stuff notwithstanding, we have to remember that in the Second World War, the Russians were our big allies, despite the fact that Stalin killed more Russians than the Germans did. Sometimes you have to get close to people you can't stand, odious people, in order to accomplish longer-term objectives, which is why I and other people think that there's a deal in the making over there. And that's the reason that Kerry is over there, to talk to Putin about putting a deal together.
You know, Colonel, it's a very interesting point you make in a historical perspective. Does some of that thinking play into some countries want Assad out, some countries want him to stay where he is because he's the lesser of two evils, and it might be easier to manage the region if Assad stays in power? I mean, is some of that going on?
I think that is the calculus, and I think the United States sometimes gets overtaken by its own rhetoric. We demanded that Assad leave before anything else happens, and now the administration's backtracked on that. Every time we've been involved in getting rid of, almost every time we've been involved in getting rid of odious people, the people we don't like, people whose policies we don't like, it's turned out poorly. I mean, take a look at Libya. There's no doubt about the fact that Gaddafi was a hideous human being, and I use the term human being advisedly in this case. But look at Libya now. Mm-hmm. It is really a big mess.
And the Shah of Iran. I mean, he was a bad guy, but you know, we did a lot of dealings with him, and look at Iran right now compared to then.
And we applauded on the sidelines when Mubarak was taken out. Mubarak, of all people. Mm-hmm. Now we have to be cleverer when we decide what it is we're trying to accomplish and with whom we're going to try to accomplish it.
Colonel Jack Jacobs, always great to visit. Appreciate your time today. Thanks.
Thank you, buddy.
You bet. Colonel Jack Jacobs with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. The number now is 2 million. That's how many people have contributed to Bernie Sanders' campaign. Now, the Democratic debate is coming up on Saturday night on ABC. A recent report that was put out shows that ABC has covered Bernie Sanders less than any other network. So I hope the senator goes face-to-face with David Muir, the anchor of ABC World News Tonight, and just asks him, how come you guys don't cover me? It's so good to see you. We'll have that discussion and a big endorsement coming up at this hour for Bernie Sanders from a major union. That's next on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Stay with us.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Good to have you back with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Endorsements, they get a headline, they get conversation. And when a union endorses, you sit back and wonder, okay, is this what the rank and file wants, or is this what the leadership wants? And there's been a lot of conversation on the Democratic side, obviously, surrounding all of that. We're joined now by Larry Cohen, who is the former president of the Communication Workers of America and, of course, a surrogate for the Bernie Sanders campaign. And he's also the chair of the Democracy Initiative. Larry, good to have you back with us.
My pleasure.
700,000 workers across this country are represented by the Communication Workers of America. And there is an endorsement coming from them this morning. Tell us about it.
So CWA members have been voting the last 6 weeks online. They received a printed 4-pager with materials from every candidate at their homes. They've gotten 5 internet contacts where all they had to do was click to vote, and they voted for Bernie. It's a huge breakthrough. It's by far the largest online vote of any type for any organization. 6 weeks and no pressure or anything else. They're voting on their own, and they voted for Bernie. And so, we're quite excited on the Bernie side. I'm excited on the CWA side as a lifer at CWA. But it's quite something in terms of what this shows about where working women and men are. This union is 40% is in right-to-work states. This union will be very active and will commit this morning to be active in Texas and Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, states where other unions have virtually no members. We have tens of thousands in those states, Iowa, Colorado, Minnesota, right through to the Philadelphia Convention. CWAers will be running for delegate. They will be active. They're set on joining Bernie in the political revolution and changing the Democratic Party.
How big of an endorsement is this? And I ask that in terms of the history of the CWA is that these boots get on the ground, the social networking is done, the door knocking is done. I mean, this has got to be a big boost to the Sanders campaign.
This is huge. And in 2007, this same vote, it was the first time we had that kind of internet voting, partially because of the internet. But and it was indecisive. There were 5 or 6 candidates at that time, and no endorsement followed. In this case, this is an early endorsement for the CWA because of the way the vote has gone, and it means we will have precinct captains in Iowa. We will have boot camps in every state. This is not a top-down endorsement at all. This is bottom-up, and people are fired up and ready to go to work.
This ought to get some network attention, I would think. And the survey that I was talking about that came out earlier this week, how little coverage Bernie Sanders has gotten on the networks, I don't know if that is going to change. But, the Democrats, the higher-ups have decided to hold their debate on a Saturday night, one of them. It's going to be on ABC. Saturday night is the worst night for television ratings. Now, the debate the other night with CNN was the 3rd highest rated ever, had 18 million viewers. And I realize that the sideshow is Donald Trump, and it's almost like a cut out of Saturday Night Live at times. And the astonishment that's produced on that stage about how hawkish they are and how they can't wait to war up everything across the world. The bottom line here is that this is not good for Bernie as I see it. I mean, it's great that the CWA is out there for Bernie. He needs a CWA, and there's no question about it that they will get the job done for him. But this plays right into Hillary's hands. A lousy night for a debate on a network on Saturday night, the worst night for television ratings. And take that with the limited amount of coverage that Bernie gets. Yet there's 2 million donors to his campaign. Who would have ever thought 6 months ago that the number would have gotten to that? Your response to all of that, Mr. Cohen?
Couldn't agree more. The Saturday night before Christmas, it follows the last Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time debate. It's deliberate. We all know it. And this is why I say that CWAers are charged up to change the Democratic Party, to say to the corporate Democrats, you're going to be pushed to the background. We want a party that everybody is a part of, so we're not excluding you, but you're going to be pushed to the background. No more top-down deals. The American people need to be involved in these elections, or we don't win these elections. We need our own form of populism. We're not about to leave populism to the Donald Trumps of the world. I think that's the answer. And the CWA members, again, this kind of cross-section, 5 industry groups, half men, half women, spread across the country, as are the postal workers who endorse and the nurses. I think you're going to continue to see, we will continue to see this groundswell across the country, whether it's in donations, where, as you said, just hit an all-time high for this time of year of 2 million donations, or whether it's in boots on the ground, men and women talking to their neighbors, discussing politics at work, and trying to create some sense that we can establish a 21st century democracy.
Well, I hope Senator Sanders says hello to David Muir and says, you know what, we haven't seen too much of one another. In fact, you've covered me less than anybody else, although there are 2 million people that have donated to my campaign. Maybe if you got those 2 million people to watch you, you'd be number 1 in nightly news. I I mean, come on. I mean, it's unbelievable. Bernie gets an endorsement. It's on page 830 of the New York Times. What does a guy have to do to get attention? And smart voters around this country know what the issues are. They're gravitating to the man. There's no question about it. Larry Cohen, it is always great to visit. All the best, my friend. Have a great holiday.
My pleasure. Great day.
You bet. When we come back, Congressman Tim Ryan from Ohio. He's on the Budget Committee. Do we have a good deal? That's next. Stay with us.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Cleaning, the iSafe team bring you this production as we roll it into the holiday season. Let's talk to a guy who's never had coal in his stocking in his life. Congressman Tim Ryan of Ohio. How are you?
There was 1 year when I was 7 and in Catholic school that I did get coal in my stocking.
All right. All
I went
sins
to confession
forgiven, right?
and I took care of business.
There you go. All right. Congressman, great to have you with us. I want you to have a great holiday season. You've sure been good to us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary over the years. And we got some exciting news coming later on. We'll tell you about that later. But anyway, you're on the Budget Committee. And we've got this deal, $1.1 trillion, and without getting into the minutia of it, in the big picture, I don't know if this would have happened if Boehner had been around.
No doubt about it.
What about that?
No doubt about it. I think, Paul Ryan has personal relationships, I think, with a lot of the people in the Freedom Caucus, and I think he's been able to. Now, some of them, as I heard last night, some of them are still going to be against what's happening in this bill. But a lot of them are going to be for it, and so he was able to talk some people off the cliff there. I think it's primarily through his personal relationships, and I think his ability to negotiate and try to get some stuff done. So at least we're moving forward here.
Do you think Ryan is big picture enough to say, hey, look, this is a year, we don't need this fight, let's get this budget done, we can come back in a year and we can do the shutdown politics. We can, get what we want. Let's get through this election cycle and let's take this off the table. What about that?
That's what I think's happening. I think it's clear that if we went to the brink again with another government shutdown again, that it would continue to damage the Republicans here. And quite frankly, I think there's some concern here, too, that if you do end up with a Donald Trump or you do end up with a Ted Cruz, that it could have significant down-ticket impact on the House Republicans. So this can be seen also, I think, as trying to inoculate themselves from some of the craziness that's happening within the context of the presidential election.
Well, shutdown politics creates a problem for Cruz on the campaign trail. Creates a problem for all of the Republicans who want to unseat Trump. I don't think Trump cares, but he would use the shutdown politics. See, Washington can't get along. You got to get me in there. That's right. How he would play it. So, I think there's a big long-term political play here. All right, now in this deal, I've done quite a few stories on country origin labeling. We've got a World Trade Organization ruling a few weeks ago saying that this has to be stripped out. If there's and if we don't strip it out, there's going to be $1 billion worth of sanctions and fees put on the United States. So labeling is history in this deal. Is that right? This $1.1 trillion budget spending package Congress has to end the labeling of food in this country, such as beef and pork and chicken and such stuff as that, which our producers have wanted for a long time and which was a big negotiating point in the Farm Bill over the last 20 years, and it finally got implemented. Now it's going to get yanked out. I mean, people want to know where their food's coming from, and you, of course, have written a book on diet and food and what we're facing. So unpack all of this for us. I mean, is this something that the Democrats just couldn't stop, or the proponents of cool just could not stop?
Well, you're put in a box, and this is basically, it gets back to the argument of the trade agreements that we sign and how we're dealing with globalization and our relationship with the World Trade Organization, to where we're in a spot now to where the WTO, the World Trade Organization, can come into the United States and basically say, yeah, you can keep your country of origin labels, but then you're going to have billions of dollars in fines for your country. And so you're put in a box because you don't want to have to deal with the fines that you'd have to deal with and the costs that you'd have to deal with. And so now we are in a position that the World Trade Organization can reduce the food security or the safety of people who are living in our country. And I just think that is they're usurping the power of the federal government. They're usurping our sovereignty as a country. And I worry, as we move into the debate about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that this is going to continue to be a problem, and it's going to filter out into other areas of our economy. And our number one job here is to protect our constituents, and that means not only from terrorism or war or whatever. It also means from bad food that may be coming into our country, or at least to give the level of transparency needed for the consumer to make their own decisions. And ultimately, that's what this is. This is just saying, hey, we're going to give this information to the consumer. They can choose or not to buy this product based on where it's coming from. And I would hope, as we're moving into this whole new realm with information and the internet and technology and our ability to really know more about where things are coming from, that this is a huge step back for us.
Well, the upside is for those in Congress who are against the TPP to say, see this is what we're talking about. And This is going to be on a grander scale. It gives you some political ammunition to go out and tell the public this is what's going to happen. Exactly. And no one likes being told what to do. It's not a representative government, and it's going to be 10 times worse with the TPP.
Yeah, so you're exactly right.
I mean, the beef in your local grocery store could have USDA stamp of approval, but it still could be from Vietnam, and you wouldn't know it.
Right. Right.
It's unfortunate that we couldn't make some kind of cross-the-border deal with the Canadians because we're in the same hemisphere. But this is going to open the door to something much broader. And we're winning on TPP, I think, Tim. I think we're winning there because the can's been kicked down the road. If you remember, right after the midterm, the next day, Mitch McConnell said we can work with the president on trade. Well, that trade he was talking about is Trans-Pacific Partnership, and here we are in 2016 coming up, an election year, they still don't have it. Yeah. So the clock keeps getting pushed back. What are your thoughts on it?
I agree with you. I think this is the best opportunity we've had to knock down a trade agreement since I've been in Congress, and I'm going on my 14th year. And I think it's in part because of what you just said. And these issues are now really coming home to roost. I think we talk manufacturing a lot. You look at how these cities are hollowed out, the loss of manufacturing, and you've been to my district, you've been to Ohio, you know exactly what's going on in some of these communities, Lorain, Akron, Cleveland, Youngstown. You've seen it. We all seen it. And now what's happening is with country of origin labeling, for example, you have this happening at the same time where the issue of food and food security and what's in our food and what are we feeding our kids, what pesticides are we putting on our food, that movement is becoming a huge movement in the country. So while that movement is growing, this issue now comes to the forefront. And Rosa DeLauro and I did a press call yesterday to try to continue to raise awareness. People are getting more engaged on this issue. So now it's not just the steel workers and Ed Schultz and Tim Ryan and a few others in the upper Midwest. Now this issue is moving into food, which is suburban moms and dads who care about what their kids are eating and where their food's coming from, now are going to start connecting the dots to our trade agreements. And I think that broadens the constituency that is needed to beat these things back, and it's happening at a grassroots level. And to me, that's really important, where it's not just the heads of the union or the head of the food safety groups, but it's the grassroots moms and dads who are saying this is BS. We need to change it, and we recognize now that it's part of this trade agreement. So we want our member to vote against it or have it renegotiated.
Congressman Tim Ryan on the Budget Committee from Ohio. Have a great holiday, my friend. We'll do it again.
You're the best. Take care, Ed.
All right, buddy. Thanks. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you this production. Like us on Facebook at WeGotEd.com. You can get this at WeGotEd.com and also at RingofFireRadio.com and RawStory.com. We're back tomorrow.